All right, taking this from the top, we are replacing one of these blocking fingers. Well, actually, we're not replacing it. We're adjusting one of these blocking fingers, this one here, which I just replaced, or adjusted, rather, and it immediately fell out of adjustment. So I think it needs new hardware. First things first, 3 lanes, all locked out. When you're doing serious service on a lane, especially if you're going underneath it, you want the lane and the ones next to it locked out. In order to get in there, we're gonna need to drop the top of the pit curtain, because there just won't be space for me otherwise. Normally I would drop the rake, but we just closed for the night, so I'm at no risk of anyone throwing a ball down a dark lane. Of course, I forgot to pull the spring, so we'll do that in a minute. But this hardware is pretty old and pretty janky. Ooh, yeah. That's a bit beaten up. Washer's fine. What was my plan? So you want to fill with in place. Oh, here's almost holes if you go with this. Someone could best it all the way, someone can fast. And just like that, it's in with absolutely no embarrassing dropping of hardware. Get on there. Upper one's next. Oh, this thing's all torn up. That is really stuck on there. Oh, and yeah, there we go. Nice and snapped in half. That was probably the problem. You know, I think this is meant to be. I never drop my hardware and I never edit my videos. Don't cut anything out, especially not dropping hardware. Back up top. This spring provides tension to the left-hand interlock blocking finger. And it is the left hand because directions on the machine are all as viewed from the front. So even though 90% of the time you're working behind the machine, left, right. So, now that spring is off, we can more easily adjust this. Loosen it up just a little. And there you go. And we want to push this up as far as it will go so that this is pressed up against that, and then we want to back it off a 32nd of an inch, which, or that's what the book calls for anyway. You can go a little more, so long as it ends up above where the interlock probe interacts with it. Okay, a little bit of editing because this thing is fiddly and difficult to see, but there are 2 holes drilled here. At some point someone drilled a second one. See, there's that one there, and then another one slightly further back, and we are putting them in the more forward holes because we need a little more distance. There we go. Now we can push that all the way up and then let up on it just a fraction. I can see it, you probably can't, but it's nice and level with the right hand blocking finger. Tighten that by hand just to keep it roughly in place while I grab the wrenches. Tighten it down properly. This is a lot easier if you have a second person who can squeeze the 2 fingers together to make sure they stay level, which is how I've done this in the past. But, you know, pretty rare to actually have 2 people in the shop at a time, unfortunately. So you do what you can. All right, that's looking pretty good. Only thing holding this in place is the pressure of these nuts, so it really should be down there tightly. Just don't go tight enough to snap them. Got tiny little bit of play. Perfect. Let's hope that did it. Whew. Spring. Hook it into the edge there. And how are our fingers doing? That is a tiny bit lower, but that's fine. Fortunately, we have to put the pit curtain back up before we can test it. There's a pin that goes right in there to keep this in place, but I'll put that back once everything's confirmed up and running. If I were to just reset the lane, you can see the left hand goes down while the right hand stays up. And this is looking pretty good. Final test, we're gonna lower the lane right as it's about to deliver the 5-pin. It'll take a bit of cycling to do that. Okay, now it's blocking that probe, and it looks good. Raised up high enough. Good to go.